the computer. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right,
lot to
today
remember.
is June 25th, and this is a meeting of the Human Relations Commission of Lower Makefield Township. Welcome, everybody. We are missing Stan this evening, so we're going to ask our wonderfully attentive 100% attendance record. Paul, if you would please stand in for Stan this evening as a voting member.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kelly, for sending around the May minutes. I hope everyone had a chance to review them prior. They were very concise, which made it easy to review. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Probably should have asked for critique beforehand, but okay. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Meeting minutes are approved. Thank you. The second point on the agenda tonight is guidance we received from the Board of Supervisors that we just needed to be a bit more formal in the role of alternative members that, and here's John. That, sorry, John, we just started. Alternative members cannot automatically assume the same responsibilities as full voting members. The change of an alternative member to a full voting member responsibility needs to go back to the Board of Supervisors for approval. So right now, we just have Paul sitting in this evening temporarily, but should we want to have an alternative member serve in a different capacity, we're going to have to take that to the Board of Supervisors for voting. And John, we do need to formally take a request to the board, which I should have just done last week while I was there, but I forgot. That we do need another member appointed because we have a member that we have not had any response from.
Ah, okay.
Since.
So we have an alternate member that we can make a full member.
Yeah, that's,
Alternate that we could make a full, but then we also need a new alternate.
Yep,
In that
I will do that.
Thank you so much.
I think,
Is she an alternate?
so I think Paul and, yeah, they were
Paul,
alternates.
Other person. who
Yeah.
responded well.
And I think since we
still-
have Amanda, we have 5. So I'm not sure that we have to make you a member, but we'll have 2 alternates and 5
Which-
members. And
which
we
is
have,
what we always had. With
Yeah.
well, we're
Yeah.
supposed to have 2 alternates.
Yeah.
So
You know,
oh,
Everything
so
else that's
Paul
here
will
was-
stay an alternate and then we'll just add another alternate, I believe. And then whenever somebody's not here, Paul, and you're even encouraged to come and discuss with us anyway, just no
it
voting.
does.
Yeah.
It does very well.
Yep. Exactly. Thank you.
We could only stop pointing out that he's an alternate.
don't worry, my feelings don't.
Your
care.
feelings
My
are-
feelings don't care.
Okay. All right, so that was that. So, a subgroup of us have been working on the inquiry and complaint form. So I guess Cathy and Paul, do you want to share, or Cathy? I know you were working on it with Stan. I don't know who the other person was. That was working.
no, I was working with Stan and Amanda on the resource stuff.
Okay.
Stan did the form, so he sent out a new,
Okay.
I guess, answer inquiry, and I see an answer 2.
Okay, so Stan worked on the form and then you guys were working on the resources.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at this form. Unfortunately, I guess it just went out not too long ago, so I'm not sure if everyone has had a chance to look at it. I have not. And Stan isn't here to sort of walk us through it. So let's just take a few minutes and take a look at it. If we have any questions that aren't self-evident, we'll have to. If we have questions that we can't explain without Stan here, then we'll have to wait till the next meeting, I guess, to get some clarification, but.
And Stan did send an email. He's stuck in New Hope. There are trees down.
Oh, so this goes first. Okay.
John, it doesn't look like you were on the original email with the inquiry form. Do you have it? At all?
No, that's what I'm looking for.
Hmm. I can send it to you. Okay.
Do you have it, Kelly, to forward?
Yeah, I just forwarded it to you. So then for everybody here, John will be on everything moving forward.
Is there, I mean, I'm just seeing if I'm missing something. I see 2 answers to complaints in an inquiry, but I don't see a complaint form. Is there?
There is a complaint.
Okay.
form. So there's a
Keep it.
complaint form, answer to complaint form, and
That's all there.
there's no, like, is the complaint form the same as an inquiry?
Yeah.
I thought we,
The 2 documents.
I thought that we had decided last time we were gonna have an inquiry and then a complaint, right?
uh,
Yeah. That,
I guess we don't see the inquiry form.
I have an inquiry form
Oh, you do?
There were 2 attachments.
We have 2 here, but
here.
we only have the complaint.
Here he is.
Aha!
Whew. Thank God you're here, because we're trying to go through these forms and.
Uh,
Yeah. No, he
Uh,
did. He just didn't put us on the second email.
Oh, but Paul only has 2.
There was a pretty tough storm that I got caught. I was inside during the storm, but did not miss the trees that were down, so I apologize for my lateness.
Oh, I'm glad you made it safely. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks.
And I guess this means Paul's been demoted.
I'm banished.
You got demoted again.
My goodness,
Poor guy.
Paul.
It's
He was-
officially the worst thing that happened.
So
No.
Stanley, I think we're all kind of trying to figure out, and I don't know if you have them all grouped together, because I have an inquiry and 2 answers and other people have a complaint form without everything else. So maybe if you could kind of, yeah.
My intention was to send everyone a copy of the inquiry form, which you'd already had from the last meeting, as well as the complaint and answer form, and they do look a lot alike. So, that doesn't mean I didn't send you the wrong ones, but
Okay, so
if the issue is just that they look alike, they are supposed to look a lot alike?
this is the complaint form and answer to the complaint.
Yeah, both of what I got were 2 answers,
Okay,
and both of them at the top say answer to complaint. So
so that's obvious.
I saved it.
All right, well, I almost
I
have my.
I think the 2, but I opened them up in my laptop. I think both of them are different, especially the ones that I just forwarded to John. One's titled answered form and one's titled complaint form.
Right. And as I,
So that is the 2 that we need because we weren't changing the inquiry form. Is that,
We-
we didn't make changes?
we discussed possible changes, but not to the point where I was clear on any actual changes. So I didn't make any actual changes, although we certainly discussed possibilities. And I'm just opening now the 2 files. So yeah, one says answer to complaint, the other says complaint.
Okay,
Uh,
so do you want to go back? In what order would you like to do this? Would you like to go back to the inquiry form and review that first? Or would you like to start with the complaint? We'll get this settled and then we'll go back to the inquiry.
So I'm happy to do any order, but with regard to the inquiry form, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'm not sure that there's anything new, right?
Start with the complaint form. We can walk through it, then we'll look through the answer to complaint. And then if after that, we want to go back to the inquiry form and make final changes, that would make most sense to me.
Okay, sounds good. So the complaint form was, I used a template, that was pretty common among some other committees. And the goal of this form is to obtain from a complainant sufficient information for them to accomplish in a legal way, an actual complaint. So something of legal significance, as opposed to an inquiry where someone's reaching out for information and to bring matters to our attention and maybe discuss whether or not there's something to pursue. The intention of this form is to check off all the boxes that any practitioner or any one investigating or making a determination would need to know. So their name, their employer, what is the basis for, the complaint, whether it's employment, public accommodation, or housing, the date the discrimination took place, which pertains to an issue of statute of limitations, or what we call exhaustion. So the federal and state laws have very strict guidelines. I don't believe our ordinance does, but that's really the intent there. So if someone says, well, the last date of discrimination was 4 years ago, we probably would have to start with a discussion about whether that's even timely. Certainly would not be timely under the federal or state law. That's the intention of asking those questions, is to determine whether it's a matter that we should properly be investigating in terms of timeliness. Just as this is a complicated issue, but under the federal law, if you don't complain, in Pennsylvania, under the federal law, if you don't complain within 300 days, it's too late. And under the state law, Pennsylvania state law, if you don't complain within 180 days, 6 months, it's too late. So,
I
yeah.
tried to fill out any that I was someone and see what I could and couldn't have. So I was pretending I was a black human. And so the first earliest date, I put down the date that I saw this happen, I wasn't hired. I didn't know if it was latest date.
Yeah, so sometimes the earliest and late in a hiring case, they're sometimes the same date. In a harassment case, they can be years apart. There are sometimes when the latest date is to the present because someone has continuing, there's a continuing violation. In a termination, that sort of becomes obvious. I was fired on this date, but yeah.
I checked off the next, that is great. And then the particulars, I'm sorry. The particulars were, so I applied for a job with ABC Corporation. I found out later that they hired a white man who didn't have the skills and background that I had. So that's how I completed that. That seemed pretty straightforward.
So
It's not a reading level thing, but a comprehension level. Maybe it's best to say first date, approximate first date or something rather than
Yeah.
latest, might just verbiage to make it easier to understand. But I think your point of like something that happens once versus something that happens over time. The only other thing on the
yeah.
first page is we need to have email address because I just think that most people are going to ask for an outreach originally.
I put a note to add the email. I just didn't know what it should be on the top.
Yeah, in the top section.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I agree. And I have no pride in ownership of this. I used a template. Yeah.
No, that's for our.
Oh, for their email address. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And look, probably something that says, how would you like to be contacted?
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
So I think that's all fair game.
And I mean, I don't feel strongly about the earliest date, latest date, but just because Byron had said like, wasn't sure what that meant, I thought if you aren't sure what that meant.
So neither the complaint nor the answer it's not a test. And it shouldn't be a situation where you blew you hit the wrong box.
It means.
Right.
It's therefore don't fill it out correctly.
And so we should have it be as clear as possible without making it so insufferably long with instructions. But we should also keep in mind that if something is submitted and it's not clear, the first thing to do is get it clarified. Contact them. Hey, tell us when this happened, and so an organization like the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, who we heard from in one of our sessions, they have intake people to do that. And that's frankly very important when you're dealing with people that aren't represented, of course. So, but yeah, we should change the language to what you think might be more understandable. And I think Byron's did a great job filling out that potential form. Sometimes it's more complicated. And then, I don't know, there's another, I guess, issue here to address, which is the At the end, there's a verification here, which follows the state law rubric, and essentially says that the complaint is subject to criminal penalties, and most claims that are filed have that language, whether it be filed in court or small claims court or major court, or with the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. The EOC does not require that particular language. So I don't think we have to have that language. I think it's actually a policy question. I don't know what policy we're supporting by telling people you don't have to swear to this. I don't want to encourage false filings, but some could look at this and say, well, this is, deterring someone. So I didn't want to, I think we should have it, but, so I'm very used to it, but I think it's the least you can ask someone who's bringing a claim, is that for them to say, hey, this is true, that by best of my knowledge and information and belief. But I do think that is something we should decide.
Presumably that'd be after the initial inquiry, right? So this is the complaint form. So we would have sussed out. And so asking them to verify would probably be a good idea. I
And so-
think that,
And the answer has the same
yeah,
verification language. Right.
that's possible too. Yeah.
I think if the state does it, I mean, we should too. And I would rather be more in line with the state, perhaps the federal government right now. But also the thing on the bottom says mail or hand deliver to, and I know we've seen that before, but
Isn't this an online form?
yeah, I mean, are we going to do it in a different way? And is that feels like an obstacle also?
Right. And it's intended to actually make things easier. But yeah, if we're going to do this online, I think maybe some language that alternatively you can mail or hand deliver it.
Well,
The idea of hand delivery is not everyone's so comfortable, with the mail or has stamps. But
like would have a printer.
yes, so, but yeah, if it's going to be online, then
Well, and if it's online, we have to have capacity for people to actually sign it. Or else you have to say it's just by typing your name here, you're stating this, right?
right. I don't know how I mean,
I don't know exactly how it's gonna be housed.
all we know is that there are ways to do it, but we don't know which those ways are.
Depending on the DocuSign, depending on how we use the OpenGov thing that we use for permits, which works very much the same way. There's probably a similar attestation that when you click on the submit, you're indicating your electronic signature to the terms and conditions of the document that you're submitting, which would meet, I think it's what we use. And again, I haven't needed a building permit in a little while. So,
I just did it 2 days ago.
oh, how'd it work for you?
DocuSign's fine, works really well.
If it's a DocuSign,
So-
you'll be able to have your signature then.
Well,
No, it's just the way John described it. That's the way it seems to work.
yeah.
So for someone that doesn't have a laptop or a desktop, how are they going to?
You can do it on your phone. You can do that.
Well, I think there needs, I understand we want to streamline as many people as possible through the OpenGov, but I think that there does need to be an alternative thing. Like you mail it, you email it, you hand deliver it, whatever those things we decide are, but not everybody's good with a computer, has access to a computer. And I already didn't like the whole setting up an account thing.
So if the, where it says mail or hand deliver, you can say electronically submit or mail or hand deliver, that kind of thing. I have one other question, otherwise it's fine by me, which is there are types of discrimination based on appearance. So, and I'm thinking of a famous case where if somebody had cornrows in their hair, or actually the most famous case is a gentleman who had to have a beard because of ingrown hairs, and it was in Kansas City, I don't remember. And maybe it was an airline, they were arguing that it was a bona fide
Occupational
qualification.
qualification,
You
yeah.
couldn't have facial hair. And I think the person won that's gotta be from the '70s. I'm not a lawyer, but I remember the case. Well, no,
The issue is under what,
yeah,
under what class do you bring that? So those were generally brought as race cases because there was a disparate impact
right,
on African Americans who commonly get razor bumps
Yeah.
and want to grow a beard. So it says other here.
okay, so
The-
other would be the way to,
There are a couple reasons for this form. I mean, one of them is to flag complaints that are not actionable.
right,
So for instance, they identify the respondent and the respondent is, some company in Trenton. Sorry, let's give you the information about where you can file a
Oh, in Jersey,
claim.
yeah.
Others might say, hey, I was fired because I'm a huge Phillies fan. I love the Phillies. And my boss loves the Mets. That is not actionable under our statute.
well, I mean, it,
Not yet.
the Mets.
Yeah. But so there are, I mean, that person, who knows how they fill it out, but
Yeah.
we have to figure out whether there's something to investigate.
Yep.
And
We would use other for those sort of edge case
W-
situations.
or people check off 9 boxes and then when they get down to the particulars, it's,
Yep,
I'm a Phillies fan or I have razor bumps. Well, let's talk through if it belongs in one or not. And the other way that gets worked out is through the answer, because sometimes the information that becomes disqualifying in a case is provided by the employer. In a way, the employer says, oh, look, this person didn't work in Lower Makefield, and provides information. You go back to the complainant and ask, is that accurate? Yeah, so you're in the wrong place.
On page 2, Stan, what is GED?
So, yeah, no, so this is, gender expression is in the prior.
That's what Kathy said too, but we don't discriminate. I don't think that's in the ordinance unless it's educational level.
I have to pull that up from the template to see where I got that. I don't know if I got that from I know I cross-referenced our ordinance from with the template I had, but I don't know where that came from. That's pretty important.
Under identity or expression, and then the next, genetic information.
No? So,
You have that in there already.
yeah, it is having a GED as opposed to a diploma. That is on the PHRC's list. So that's the source. And I don't know whether that's in our ordinance.
Race, color, sex, religion, ancestry, genetic information, national origin, sexual, gender, identity or expression, familial status, marital status, age, veteran status, mental or physical disability, use of guide or support animals or mechanical aids, and, yeah.
So presumably, under the state statute, if you were an employer and you said, a high school diploma is required, we would not accept a GED, that would be that would be discrimination. That's according to the Human Relations Commission, the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. If our ordinance doesn't have it, then it should probably come out. So, and I apologize, but I didn't make that one up. I've never handled a case like that. So wasn't sure where that came from, but it came from the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission.
Okay, so any other, the form looks really good, so we've got just a few minor things. Any other things people want to bring up?
I mean, the only thing I think I mentioned it to him earlier in an email is just the difference between a complaint and an inquiry. I just want to make sure that's listed somewhere, either on the actual website itself or on the documents themselves, so people are aware of what the difference is.
Probably both is a good idea. List it, and then put it, use this
And-
one.
And that's really important if you are concerned about people waiving their rights by failing to file a complaint, which define, I don't want to use legal language, but in order to file within 180 days under the state law, you have to file a complaint, not an inquiry. So if you think you filed an inquiry and you're all good, you're not. And if we're going to impose deadlines on filing, or not lead people astray, because if someone comes to us and we're going to later tell them, maybe you'd rather be in the Human Relations Commission, we should probably make sure they get their own time. So I think it is important for us to explain that an inquiry is not a complaint and does not, start an investigation or do anything other than, alert us to the fact that you have questions that, that we might be able to answer for you.
Can we propose putting that's not the inquiry then? That's kind of a disclaimer, as it were.
I think that's a good idea. Let's see if there's anything like that on there.
I would imagine that it should be something in the, one of our sections about, how to, well, I don't even remember what all our sections are right now, but, how to file a complaint or something, I think is a section. And then we would just put it there, and then I think it does make sense to put it on the top of the inquiry form. Yeah, we have a how to file a complaint. So we could just add the language under that.
On the end of the inquiry form, there's actually the text that says, I understand this is not a complaint, and I will need to provide additional information.
Yeah, and there's earlier language that indicates that there are strict timing requirements. So I don't know if we can do that better or if we can bold and underline, but there is some language on the form. I am sensitive to the concept that someone comes to us for questions and we delay them to the point where they have slipped on their rights. I think would be a terrible situation. So I think it's important. So I'm not surprised that there were some things in there already, but we could do them better. And I see I put GED on the inquiry form as well. So that's got to come out.
So the edits that we've suggested are to add email address to the complainant section. Best way to contact, and if they pick phone, then you would say best time to call. Do we want to leave earliest date, latest date, or do we want to change it?
Maybe check boxes here, or is this a one-time event, or is this a ongoing? To Byron's point, where it was difficult to put it in, being it was a one-time thing, where the person didn't get hired, might be easier if there's a box there that says, no, is this a one-time event?
I might ask a question like, when did the discrimination start? When did it stop? Or is it still ongoing? Yeah.
It's a good idea. I like that. Okay, so, and page 2 was just to take out the GED. And then page 3 was electronically submit, mail, or hand deliver.
Is this on? I can't quite tell. Okay, so I'm not sure I understand how we ended up with the date issues. The example I used it was one time I didn't get hired, but you're going to put different categories on here so you can do it as a one-time event or not, and then have different dates.
Well, what I was suggesting is to just say, when did the discrimination start? When did it stop? Or is it continuing?
But if it were, I didn't get the apartment because I was the wrong color, or I didn't get the job, is there an ending to that? I mean, you would say,
No.
I tried to apply that date, I didn't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're gonna put this same date.
Fill it out from their perspective.
Yeah.
Fill it out.
I think most people wouldn't think to put the same date at first.
But they might leave it blank.
Require
Yeah, all right, well, I'm open to, I mean, we're all open to better language. I think,
a
yeah.
checkbox for a one-time event, and then a checkbox for ongoing, as well as the.
Mhm.
Then you could do.
Yeah, so I think that's a good idea. I think that's a good idea. When did it start? Is it a one-time event or ongoing?
Yeah.
You know,
Keep these two that are here and add those other two, one-time event and ongoing. This way gives the person enough options.
Yeah.
I think that Byron's point, if somebody can't fill a form out, because they can't understand it, they might just throw their hands up and not do it. We've all filled out forms and looked at them and go, what came wrong with this form? We don't want to be those people. We'll do other things that people get mad about.
It looks really good. These are minor suggestions that'll make it even better. And,
So what's the next step to get it going? I mean, do we need to do a motion?
we need to, do you want to look at the next?
so
Because it might cause changes in so, yeah.
I'm sorry, I just cross-referenced our ordinance and I misspoke. We do have a 180-day deadline. So just like the Human Relations Commission, so that makes it even more important that we are clear on the inquiry form and also that we promptly learn if the last, so what happens is if someone's been harassed for 2 years and it's ongoing, they didn't have, it's time because it's still going on. But if the last act of discrimination was 181 days ago, we have no jurisdiction under the ordinance.
Saying that you would still want them to fill out the form so that we can talk to them about it, but that'll be the end of it. Or are you saying underneath the dates, you would want to say something? Please note if the most recent date was more than.
No, no, the former. It is what it is. We don't need to tell them the legal significance of that. We certainly don't want to encourage someone to, fib. But
Okay.
But I just want you to know that because I misspoke. It is vitally important that someone suffer an act of discrimination and report it and file a complaint within 180 days under our ordinance.
I do think that is nowhere on our website. And that's critically important because someone might sit on this and be like, oh, I'm not going to do it today. I'm not going to do it. If I don't do it tomorrow, now I've got a problem. So I do think we should include that somewhere. Maybe under the how the HRC can help section or.
I have some more bad news.
Uh-oh.
The ordinance does not authorize online filing. And I say that because it specifically requires the filing to be in person or by mailing, either to the township manager or to the chairperson.
That's in the ordinance or the?
Yeah, that's 1B. That's procedure for filing complaints, section 12-6, 1B.
Well, that's too bad.
So this is where I remind folks that I am not a lawyer, couldn't play one on TV, but did take one law school course and had a really good LSAT.
You told us the last time.
I use the same jokes. If there's a drafting revision that we need to make OpenGov or online filing available, I think that's something relatively easy in drafting fix. And in terms of leeway, if we get that, obviously got to publish it, but if we're publishing other stuff, it wouldn't be. Let me put that on my list in addition to the alternate in there as well. And then
I'm just looking again at the inquiry form, which as I remember the discussion, it was around how to do this with anonymously. But it looks if there's all this information about me and about it looks very similar to the complaint. I'm not sure I understand the difference at this point. Or the purpose.
Well, the purpose of an inquiry form is to allow someone to ask questions, provide information, before they decide whether or not they want to file a complaint or file a complaint with us.
But if they don't tell us who they are, how do we respond to them?
But I mean, after we had our dialogue, though, in fairness, to Byron,
said-
I didn't make any changes, but
No,
Yeah.
correct. So you can put your name, but not say the name of who you're accusing or exactly, you can.
It's on here, though.
but they don't have to fill it out. It's not like it gets,
So
You just have to tell us how
if
to.
I walked in and I said, we have 3 different forms to do. One's an inquiry form, and that's for, 2 is a complaint form, and that is for, and I mean, I'm not, could you answer the question, the difference between?
That's what we're saying we wanted to spell out on the website, that an
Okay.
inquiry form is used to ask I don't know, a
To-
question without specifics about about how to proceed.
or you might have a lot of specifics and say, is this something that here's all the things that happened to me. Can I file a complaint? Is this something that you have jurisdiction over?
I think that Byron's concerns could be maybe addressed by at the top of the inquiry form saying, you have the right to make an immediate complaint. This form is more for information gathering, figuring out the best wording for that. And you do not have to fill out every piece of this form. If you make a complaint, you will. Let's,
But also,
make that more eloquent, but
also only an inquiry filed out, we're not gonna send out a answer to complaint to the defendant.
Right? You haven't made a legal filing. And incidentally, I think the inquiry form also has a verification, what I call verification language. And I'd be more inclined to take it off that. and
yeah,
not actually.
I agree, because that makes it sound very legal, and that keeps going back to what Byron's saying about the not being enough of a difference between the two forms.
And that was, a template. So other HRCs are using that verification there. But even as I was typing, I thought, does it really belong there? Because I don't think you want to discourage, again, you don't want to encourage people to fib, but you shouldn't be discouraging people from asking a question by saying, you're subject to penalty if your question is somehow based on a false fact. So a fib.
Alternative truth.
So lots to discuss.
So I think we know what we want to do on the complaint form. And I don't think the changes are very significant. The inquiry form sounds like we need to make clear that you can fill out the sections you want, that they're all voluntary, and that the only thing that must be filled out is a way to reach you back. And a comment that this is not, doesn't represent a complaint and doesn't replace the filing of a actual complaint, or whatever verbiage you would use there. Is there any other major change to the inquiry form before we move on to the answer to complaint?
Byron doesn't.
Well,
Yeah.
I still don't get the process. It still doesn't make sense. I don't see, it feels like another, if I got to the next form, I go, I just filled this out last one.
You don't have to do an inquiry form. So the inquiry.
Well, then why do we have it then?
Because not everyone's ready to file a complaint. They don't know.
They might have questions.
Once you file a complaint, the township's
It's a
gonna
matter
reach
of
out now to the defendant. Now the defendant's gonna know the complaint.
All right, I get that.
Okay.
First time I heard that. That's good. That would make sense. So just what you said, Paul, I think. I could see, oh, that's why I'm doing it again.
Well, the alternative way to do it, I suppose, would be to call this inquiry or complaint. And then say you fill out what you want, but if you don't fill out it out to completion, it's considered an inquiry.
I think that's more confusing, but,
Mhm.
and I would,
Yeah.
We just need a good explanation of
I-
what you use each form for.
and I think ingenuity is awesome, and I would listen to Byron all day long, but everyone else is doing it this way.
I get
They
it.
may have learned something.
I get it.
But I think the forms should really be as clear as we can make them without making them so long that they become unclear, but by their breadth.
I was on a project to automate medical record systems for a large medical system. And the questions kept coming up. We just filled this out in the last.
Yeah.
And so it was really important for people to see, I know I am being asked and I'm not being asked again. It really made a difference in their cooperation.
And I'd like to think that someone that really has trouble filling out the forms, any of the forms, would have a resource someone in the township to direct them to us to help them fill out a form.
Stan, what if we
Yeah.
just made the inquiry form literally a blank form that says, if you have a question or would like to be in contact with the HRC, here's, this is what you need to do, provide us your contact information. And then it's very clear. We're not asking for anything. We'll talk to anyone about anything, anytime, and we'll tell you if we have jurisdiction.
Yeah, well, they're still gonna have to answer those questions, so,
If they file,
no. Yes,
it's just a
but-
conversation.
yes, but, I think in most cases, to get any kind of practical information, they're gonna have to provide,
Talk to us about
yeah.
it. Whoever, if it's me that's calling them or emailing them back and arranging a time to speak to them and say, okay, what's the issue? And then I would bring it, which is another thing I want to talk about at some point is, once we get one of these, are we waiting a month for us to meet when we now learn we have 180 days? So just, anyway, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, the nature of this inquiry form as a practitioner is really what the drafter, the original drafter of this was trying to accomplish, was to get sufficient information to assist an individual in filing a complaint. And that's why they're asking for all the information in a complaint. Remember, I talked about intake people earlier? So you could submit an inquiry or an intake form to the Human Relations Commission, the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, and they will draft the complaint for you based on your information. So that's, yes,
We
but
could,
we don't have to do that.
I mean, we could do that if you keep it blank, it's blank. Someone has an issue, we contact them and basically whoever's talking to them is sitting there with the form, asking them these questions. And
Write that form up. It's a short form. I mean, what would you want it to say? What would you want it to look like? Let's do it.
before we
Yeah.
spend time doing it, I would ask Byron if that feels
that's-
like it.
If there's, I don't think a blank form writing skills are really different and whether I do that, but I think what I'm hearing people saying now is that the point of the inquiry is to investigate, is this something you can file a complaint about? And then if that's true, they can go forward, you can no, we can't because it was in Trenton or whatever the reason was. So, but they have to have enough information to make that distinction at that point. And then the next part, okay, if this is filing a complaint, has a different set of what, consequences, Stan? If I file a complaint,
Well, our ordinance and everyone else's requires a complaint to be filed in order to preserve and assert your rights. Until it's a complaint, it doesn't have a legal significance. And after 180 days, you're out of time.
so,
And I went online and I filled out a complaint and I wasn't sure if I'd have it half baked. And then we consider it and we go and say it doesn't meet our jurisdiction. This is why.
Right.
So I go back to the
That makes
needed.
sense. I agree. And we were trying to balance between the legal issues, which are complicated, and helping someone file something to get some action taken.
Or,
So like on the next form, I had a question.
or point them to some other resource.
Yes,
Yes.
so if you have a basis for challenging the jurisdiction of the lower how would I know that? I'm the ABC Corporation. I just filled out the part that said, yep, we interviewed 5 candidates and we decided that another one had better skills and a better set of experiences. That's what, okay, next question is, can we challenge, if you have a basis for challenging the jurisdiction? That sounds like I have to call my lawyer. I wouldn't have any idea what that meant or what to do about it, I think.
Well, so first of all, if you don't have a basis, that's okay. And second of all, most employers do have a lawyer.
Would you write, here are the things about that? The challenging the jurisdiction would mean event occurred in this jurisdiction, blah, blah, whatever the issues are, to decide that. And then I would know, yep,
So
no, I don't have any.
we could add And i.e., for example, the employer is not located in Lower Makefield Township. That's essentially what's being referred to here with the jurisdiction, but there are other things as well.
I think like if we are using or the OpenGov system, you can communicate to the person that sent you that very easily through that portal essentially. So, and it's always going to their email and we're always getting emails back. So, if they come and apply and say, I have a question about this, is this complaint worthy? And then we could say very quickly, well, no, because of this, or yes, because of that. And then the communication is really solid there. That's why pushing for OpenGov, I think, could be a good choice.
And we could change this language to be super user-friendly, something to the effect of, does Lower Makefield Township have, any connection to the employment or the housing, something like that, as opposed to using the term jurisdiction. I think most people have at least a layman's concept of what that means, but make the language more understandable. I'm all for that.
I think regarding inquiry, whether it's a form or not, we need to have a way, whether we do it through OpenGov or an email, that people can ask us questions. Because it might not just even be around a complaint. It might be, can you come talk to us about something?
Yeah.
Like, can you do a training?
An educational event.
Like, we're thinking just linking it to complaints. I think that people could reach out for other reasons potentially.
As long as it's not a GED class, we'll be healthy.
Right, yeah.
We'd be happy to.
So whether that's a form on OpenGov or an email, I don't necessarily have strong opinions, but
Well, the question is, do we have an email address? Like, Kelly, do we have any way for people to,
Not yet, but I'm sure I could make one. Yeah.
I mean, because that, if we can do away with the whole inquiry form by just having our email posted.
Yeah. That's a good point. Because I know, like, we have an admin at LMT, so then I can look into that.
That would actually be really nice.
One way to do that maybe is the stuff that you have on the inquiry form could be on the page that tells people to email to the HRC. And so the way you could write it, is to say, if you're not sure if you have a formal complaint and would like us to look into it, email us at this address, and you may want to include the following content. And then everything we have in the inquiry form will give people guidelines as to what they should enter in there, that it's open-ended, and that you could email us anything. But the reason why you want to be able to take this stuff is all this has to be stored, right? It's all subject to right to know requests, and well, this stuff is not. It has some protections, but the fact that we need to store all this for audit reasons and data collection. So we want to make it easy for people to make inquiries. And if they want to make a formal complaint, then use the OpenGov system. That could be a reasonable sort of compromise that's between both. But my job here is to just suggest and to listen. And Byron, by the way, if you want, we have room in our UI meetings at where I work. So every Thursday. Yes.
But I'm not trying to make it difficult. I'm trying to put it from the
Yeah.
frame of reference of the person who's going to fill it out. And also to give us enough information to make sure we're managing the legal aspects so they don't get caught at 180 days and they don't get caught with the jurisdiction problem, but to make it really easy from the perspective of the user.
What about people who don't have email addresses or, is there going to be some sort of phone number that they can reach out to us instead and leave a voicemail with the Lower Makefield Township and they'll give it to us? I would imagine there's not going to be, not everyone can email us.
well, that would probably go through you or Katie, right?
Yeah, you can always put my phone number.
Yeah.
Website, do we have our phone to phone numbers? We have gotten, we did get it.
Who got the phone call? Oh, it went to, oh, okay. I mean, you can always put my phone number or Katie's, and then if they ask for, let's just say the liaison Kelly, she has my extension, but we can put mine. I mean, Yeah,
What happens if I call the main number for Lower Makefield?
the main line, it goes right to the administrative assistant, Katie McMahon.
Then what happens?
You just ask whatever you need at that point. Like, I need somebody in planning and zoning. I have a plot plan question or a variance question, or I want to get to your permanent administrator, Maureen.
So we wouldn't expect hundreds of inquiries coming in. So just having the ability to do what you just described, it sounds like it would work.
Yeah. I like the email address idea and the phone number.
Bottom line is, are we failing entirely on an inquiry form and just putting on our blurb of how to file a complaint is fill out the form. There is, HRC can help, where we could put a paragraph that says, if you have a question or would like to speak to a member of the HRC without filing a form, about a matter without filing a formal complaint, here's our email info. That seems very.
I think that's great.
Okay, so we have a complaint form. We have the absence of an inquiry form. Should we have comments on how to answer the complaint? I mean, I guess. Is this just copy and pasted essentially? I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to. Is the first page basically a copy and pasted off the complaint?
Yeah, the first page is the same, asking for the same
Changes we made on the.
information. It's incredibly common that the complainant does not have accurate information about the respondent, like their actual corporate name and things like that. And I mean, so page 2 is asking them for their side of the story, essentially, and to respond to the allegations, and then to, talk about the jurisdiction thing again. I mean, we don't have to make special allowance for that question to be asked at all, but I do think that it's appropriate to at least highlight that should be a consideration. Are we the right people for this, for whatever reason? Because again, if there's no connection to Lower Makefield Township, or if it's not timely, that's an opportunity for the employer or the respondent to say so. So we can fix that.
This is being filled out by ABC, not by the person, right?
The answer's being filled out by an employer who could be an individual.
Could be.
Yeah.
So why
Or-
would we want to ask that question about jurisdiction to them? We've already got the information on the complaint form.
Yeah.
Or make the-
Right, no,
We would know that from the complaint form.
no, it's because they disagree. It's because of a disagreement. That this is, in that event. In the event where an employee may believe that there is jurisdiction, the employer may believe there's not jurisdiction. That's generally a threshold question. If we were able to answer that as a threshold matter, particularly if we didn't have jurisdiction, we wouldn't want to decide that at the end of a fact finding.
Would we decide that, though?
Yes,
Okay. So why are we asking the ABC?
we're asking them whether there's something they want to raise with us. We're not.
So, I mean, I hear what you're saying too, and what I feel like is I see this answer form and we're mailing this and a copy of the complaint to them. I think there needs to be like a letter explaining, like, a form letter saying we've received, a complaint and stuff. And maybe part of that form letter can be, our jurisdiction is Lower Makefield, so that when they answer the complaint, they can address any things.
I would recommend sending our ordinance, which has
Yes,
fully, I mean, the procedure.
the letter too, because people
Yeah,
aren't going to read it.
But no, as an attachment to the letter, I'm not saying don't send a letter, but the ordinance itself defines how we are to go about doing this and what they are to, how they're to go about responding. And that's particularly, again, section 12-6, which has a procedure for filing the complaint notification and answer, tells the respondent what they have to do. So we should give that to them.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying, yes, agree with that. But I think on this answer form, we can take out the thing about jurisdiction and just in the letter say, we received this complaint, this is our jurisdiction. Here's a copy of the ordinance for your information. Please fill out this answer form, because as Tara was saying, it could be very easily, thrown in the garbage.
And that was another question I had. So we are mailing this to somebody, not emailing it, we're snail mailing it.
Should be certified now.
I mean, that also like feels, I mean, maybe it should be, really probably should be certified.
It needs to be certified. Because it's a legal document to some extent, right? I mean,
Well, it doesn't,
like jurisdiction under an ordinance, it should be certified.
really.
Because then we can also return, or
not-
somebody signs for
Not a
it.
lot of documents that I get are certified. Sometimes sending somebody certified is the best way for them not to get it, because they don't sign for it.
He doesn't respond.
Yeah, well, a couple things. One is you could actually pick up the phone and say, whoa, we sent this. You could send it again, like notice of default. Here's,
To go bang on doors, and
So-
that sounds,
I am not our solicitor, but I can read our statute or our ordinance, and here's what it says. Within 30 days of receipt of the complaint, the Lower Makefield Township Human Relations Commission shall send a copy of the complaint to the person charged, to the respondent.
in
What's send? So I do think we should, when this ever happens, we should do our best to figure out the best way to send it. But I'd say the best way to send it is the way that we feel most comfortable they'll receive it.
Well, and you can send an email
Yeah.
and send it certified mail.
And regular too. That's actually one of the best ways to prove receipt circumstantially, is you send something certified and regular. If the certified mail is not signed for, but the regular is not returned, then it was received. But received meanings it was delivered by the mail, by the postal service. If people don't open their mail, at some point, I can't help you.
all right. Well,
Most businesses do, by the way, open their mail.
mail or hand deliver in sealed envelope. So they cannot reply via email. They cannot do that. That is not the way the form is written to. We can't electronically submit. Because if we do email it to them, they should be able to respond electronically. Otherwise, so I would say the same thing. But that would need the Board of Supervisors to approve if you send open that up.
Yeah, I don't know that they can respond by open.gov, but I agree that if we choose to email to them, they should be able to email it back. If we're going to mail it to them and we want them to hand deliver it.
Submit. And we'd have to give them the website. To the email box. hrc.lmt or whatever. Most of these are process problems though, not verbiage problems. Like I think the form is really good. It's just a matter of how do we want to provide it and have it.
Yeah,
And I
my
think-
process question was related to taking the thing off about the jurisdiction.
We are not ready to vote on this, guys. There's too many. I think we bring copies before we can vote. But I think we have a lot of direction.
Well, can I suggest, I'm happy to, I think I sent this as a Word doc, all of these things as Word docs. If not, I'm happy to. And I'm happy to work with whoever else wants to edit and make some drafts and revisions, and let's get on it and circulate it again. But it seems like people have put a lot of good thought into how to improve the form. I mean, if any of those folks know how to edit a Word doc, let's do it. If not, I can do it. I know, I certainly know how to edit a Word doc.
What do you want to say?
Well, I was going to volunteer Byron. Well, because you have, I think, a really good UI brain.
Skills to do that kind of editing, but I'm happy to help. But let me make sure if I understand the process. So what we're saying, first would be somebody could send an email or call us to ask some questions about, here's what happened, just in general, so we know. And then we could say at that point, no, because it was in Trenton or whatever, something obvious like that. Or, yeah, so if you want to file a complaint form, here's the complaint form. And then the answer form goes to the person who was who did the nasty thing.
Allegedly,
It's our process, right? And that would all be in the first part of our,
and and I would recommend that everyone read the ordinance with regard to the procedures, because they're very clear, very well established. It's a quick process. And part of that process actually involves reviewing to determine whether we have jurisdiction and possibly suggesting that the complainant take the matter to another forum, including the EEOC or the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. That's paragraph.
setting up a process for hundreds of submissions. So this could be done by any of us who would take the phone, the call would come in there, would be forwarded to one of us. We all could answer take the call, respond to the email. Next would be put them in the formal process with the complaint form. Because I don't think we're talking about lots and lots of people who are going to do this. Unless we had some experience, we could then make it better.
All right, well, I don't mind taking a stab. I know how to handle it. But I don't, we're gonna wait 3 weeks, I guess, because I don't think we're gonna, or 4 weeks. 'Cause I don't think we're
Okay.
gonna solve this on. When is our next meeting?
The 20. I just got the invitation today, the 23rd, July 23rd.
I will be out of the state that day.
Okay.
And I'll be gone for the next 3 weeks. Which is part of why I didn't want to respond.
I mean, we could skip the July meeting, but then we're, end of August. It is now that we're gonna turn into pumpkins, but we have some other things we have to do. So I'll work on it. I'll circulate it back around. And then before this meeting ends, we have to decide if we're gonna meet in June. Okay,
Are you planning on moving on to the next?
I'm just contemplating.
Because I just have something to add before we go.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so it was just an update about the confidentiality piece. So I actually reached out to Heather, Director Roth from the PAHRC, just to kind of get her idea on what they do when it comes to the right to know, because I had sent all of you the right to know law in and of itself, and I printed out chapter 700, which includes the redactions. It's hard for me to make it out because I'm not a law student. And I wanted to get her understanding. I received an out of office email. I also reached out to Andrew Griffin from Curtin and Hefner, but I did also not reach back. He's an attorney who does deal with the right to know law stuff too. So as soon as I get some more information about exactly what can be redacted from the right to know the information, I will have that for you all as well, but I'm waiting to hear back from my resources. So that's just my update on the confidentiality piece. But from my understanding, it's also up to the agency or the municipality, like how much they want to give out in terms of information. I did a training on it today, and it said that it's actually a lot of this stuff, it gets up in the air, and it's the agency's choice, or it's their discretion to provide what they want to provide if it hinders the safety of particular persons. So it's also, I guess, an LMT decision. But I want to hear from Andrew and Heather first as well. So then I will get back to you all on that.
Ken, in the meantime, since we're probably delaying this, until August, can you maybe figure out how we would get this on OpenGov once it's approved, so that at least once we get approved, we can kind of get it out there very quickly?
So I spoke to Dave today about it, and he said that it'd be very easy so Jim Majewski, he does a lot of the back end adding on OpenGov. So he said that it would be very easy for him to help me put it on there.
For next meeting, but when would the meeting?
July 16th. So I put in my notes about whether the chapter 12, section 6 portion allows for open gov submission of complaints. And I'm going to check with the solicitor on that. If her interpretation is that it's okay as drafted, then we wouldn't need a revision. But if she deems that we would need a revision, then I would seek it at that time. So I'll email her tonight or tomorrow morning on that.
I have one just quick new business, because I know we're running past our time.
Oh, we're not, hold on, before you give us new business.
Okay. It just.
One more thing though, can we get the, at least at minimum, get the email set up and on our page on the website and saying that if people have inquiries, they can reach out to us and that the complaint form will be coming soon. So it can at least be showing progress, because then if somebody's coming in with a complaint, which I don't think is going to happen before we finish it, but if they did,
I mean, I can amend this, how the HRC can help, like, and how to get in touch. If, I mean, it's gonna be like 2 sentences of like, if you have a general inquiry or concern that you'd like to discuss with the HRC, here's how to reach us. It'll go to.
Oh, is that something that needs to be voted on? That, no.
What, to create a mail?
To amend the previous
Because we
accepted.
voted on this. I mean, instead of, I mean, I could just do a how to reach us. And it won't amend anything we have here, we'll just add it.
Okay,
Is it okay for it to go on the website without
I think so.
seeing it first? You're just gonna have to tell me what the phone number and the email is, and then we'll,
So my direct line is,
and the email is gonna go into a general email box?
so I can discuss it with Katie tomorrow and send you an email. I liked hrc@lmt.org. I think that's perfect. But just in case for some reason that doesn't take, I'll confirm with her tomorrow and see also how easy it is. Because I know she has an admin one, but I also want to make sure that there's a second one that I can get as well.
Check that.
Me.
Okay.
But-
We'll let Tara know.
Yeah, there's also a feature if using Office 365 to create an email alias. So HRC at LMT, when a person emails that, it would automatically get everybody who's on the HRC. So, and
Oh.
that's an option that would make it easy, because then everybody's notified the moment that email comes in and you can move on it. So the features, it's called email alias. It's not like it's similar to creating a new account, but it's a different feature, and I'm not a Office 365 certified.
did you take a class?
No.
Okay, we have quite a bit of, well, distribution. Think is as much, we've said as much about that as we have. I think we kind of need to come back to process workflows after the forms are completed, unless someone has something new to add. And we'll carry this over. Are we ready to move to number 4?
Do you want to go amend it?
So I did put them out, because I apologize, and I did not know you have so many people here. So, who wants to get off? Not have?
I don't.
Okay.
I have a copy of it.
Oh, okay. No, I meant to
All
John.
over your document?
Yeah.
So essentially what this is the sort of 3 of us.
It's 2 sheets. And I am gonna try to respond all to one of our emails with it so that you guys can get it, but I'm having trouble with that, so that's why I printed it out.
Just make sure it's stamped.
That's why I did that.
I'm not sure how to do this, but I've got a grandson that I have to get by at 8 o'clock. So I have to leave in 3 minutes. No, the new business was, I went to the Bucks County Human Resources Conference last week.
Oh.
And I wanted to share just a minute or two of what happened. I thought it was interesting, not pessimistic.
We can pause what we're doing and let Byron
Yeah.
bring us some new business. That sounds very interesting.
Okay, just quickly, there were presentations, the person who runs it couldn't come, one of his division heads came, and another man, who I don't remember his name, was an attorney that presented. But I was struck by a couple of things. One, they still, their use of DEI and DEI language was as if the world isn't changed. And they focused a lot on white privilege, which I think was a strategic mistake, because it's really backfired in a lot of places, and I was surprised. The people there I talked with, I had a couple of friends there, they all talked about very slow progress. Some of them have been on these for 2 or 3 years, and they haven't done much of anything except maybe an event. And people strategically were kind of stuck with, we just do events. So there was a bunch of people thinking that way. And then there were several lawyers there who argued about how many days something had to happen. So it seemed like it went in 2 different categories, but it was a little pessimistic in the sense that no one was making much progress and no one kind of didn't know what to do next. You know, it would almost be like, it was, so it's a challenge, I think, for us, based on what I learned with these people last week. I've got to go. My grandson is waiting. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, have a good night.
Take care, Brian.
We'll let you know.
Bye-bye.
Guess what? Alternates back in action.
If we vote on anything. Okay. All right, Amanda, you like,
You want to do this, Kathy, or would you like me to do it? Okay. So I guess we were just doing different resources. I kind of came in afterwards, but I mixed what we've had, all 3 of us had. So it seems that we should definitely put on the basic ones of the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, the EEOC, which would be federal, as well as I did add the Bucks County Human Relations Council. I don't know if they'll need that, but it's always good to have it just in case. And then we were talking about different sections that we should have on the website just as resources. Now, these are all optional. We don't have to put all of these on here, but first off, there is a full page of laws of what laws, what things can be discriminated against. So if you click on the link, which is why I also emailed it to you now, it brings up every single law that Pennsylvania and federally you would be relating to. So that is that one. Then we were also talking about having a section for education, because I know we did talk about having presentations or people coming in and speaking to local workforces and things like that. So the only thing I found so far is just the thing provided by the EEOC. I'm sure we could find other ones, but that's kind of the basic one. And so I thought that was probably the best to put on the website at first. Then we were talking about local legal resources. So the Bucks County Bar Association has a lawyer referral service, which might be helpful. I also know that if you cannot afford one of those lawyers, there is also the Legal Aid of Southeastern Pennsylvania, which has a certain income limit. Both of those you tell them what's going on and they give you to a lawyer that is related to that type of law. No, so neither of those are the senior law, although perhaps you're thinking of the Area Agency on Aging's law.
because they're also a senior law.
Oh, okay, we can add that as well. That's a good idea. Because I know that the Bucks County Area Agency on Aging has, it's like not age discrimination. It's elder abuse, and elder abuse is not necessarily just physical abuse. It can also be financial. It can be a number of other things. And I know they do other legal things like wills and stuff. So, you know, maybe we'll put the Area Agency on Aging, but if you have a senior law, that might be better.
I mean, it's Philadelphia, but.
Well, usually those are close enough. So those are the basic ones for law. And then, of course, we had other ones where you can make complaints. The ACLU has filing an actual complaint, and I would imagine that they have actual lawyers that you would be able to talk to if they think this is a big enough complaint, as well as the Housing Equality Center of Pennsylvania. And Disability Rights PA as also has a way that you can complain, and they can give you a lawyer to assist you as well. And then these are the more optional ones. I noticed on some other websites that they kind of had resources just if you're struggling in other ways. Some of them had mental health resources and different things like that. So I also put down the Bucks County Human Services Connect, the Bucks County Hub. which has a number of different social resources, as well as for just disabled people, elderly people, different things like that. Just have it on there. Disability resources, the Bucks County Center for Independent Living, as well as access services. Those are mostly to just provide services. I keep using that word, I apologize. And then Cathy also provided a number of resources for LGBTQ plus community, and I added some for what I found for immigrant resources. There's a number of other immigrant resources as well, but they're really seem to be focused on like ICE and keeping you in the country as opposed to helping you in Lower Makefield. So do you think there's anything that should not be added from this list, or is there any other section that should be added?
Started looking and I wasn't finding anything, and that's not to say it's not there. I didn't do a deep Cathy dive, but
I'm sure there is. We just have to find it.
Well,
But these are the basic ones and we'll add it.
Specific to our area, but, thinking, so I sent you the email, the website address for the Senior Law Center if you want to look at it, but I mean, the anti-defamation league.
yeah, we just have to decide whether, because I started with the LGBTQ and then I was saying to her, like, if we do that, then we have to try to do something for all representative groups, which is then where she kind of came in with some of the others. And I kind of like the idea of having some of those resources, but you know,
We can keep adding to it as we find.
yeah, I mean, there's, nothing to say. And it's also a matter of, what do we want to do in local, and, Rainbow Room is losing their federal funding in March anyway. But we'll see.
So for that section, but we have no shortage in that section.
Right, right. I kind of feel like we do all or nothing with,
Well,
You
it
know.
doesn't have to be a comprehensive list today. This could be a starting place.
Yeah, this was just supposed to be a basic to make sure we have some options on the website while we're planning other things.
yeah, my only other feedback is, on the top ones, I basically copied and pasted their information from their websites. But I do think for all the other resources, we need like an explanation of what they are. Both Trevor and Trans Lifeline are phone numbers. I didn't put in, I just put in the links.
Okay.
When I sent it to you, but so people know what, the resource is.
Well, that's why I put headings, but I agree.
Yeah.
We should put either headings of like what each section is, so
Mhm.
that they kind of know where to click, or what each website is. So you don't have to click through every single one, especially if you don't have a lot of
I
time.
mean, there's a lot, I mean, you could have caregiver support, you could have parent support, there's so many levels to go down.
Well, thankfully, a lot of that is covered by the Bucks County Hub, as well as if we're going to add the Area Agency on Aging. A number of these have those types of things, caregiver supports and things like that.
Melody, is there a section you would?
Oh, yeah, we
strike
didn't do
me
an
that
interview.
like, have we?
I don't know what else you would hook up with these. Not that I have gotten with it, but.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
And the education section, of course, doesn't have to be specifically for businesses. If we want to do stuff later for the youth of Lower Makefield, that's always a good option too.
Great list. Thank you all. I mean, I've not been on these sites, but I trust your due diligence. So, I guess I would ask, do we want to vote to add these to our website as a resource section? Knowing that it can continue to grow, and then if we vote on it, does that mean every time we want to add something to it, we're going to have to vote on it?
Not really clear on what we have to vote on or not vote on. And it doesn't look like it.
So everybody's pleased with putting this on the website?
Yeah, once we put a little bit more information on, maybe Amanda and or I can tweak it out a little bit more as far as explanations, and then we could put it on the, we could
Yeah, you can
send
send
it
it
to
to
you to
me
get on the
direct.
website.
Mhm.
Because I'd like to start having information on the website. I think we all want that.
I would agree.
Okay, I'll make a note that it's gonna be tweaked by either you or Amanda and then sent to me. Okay, thank you.
The only other thing on our list was community outreach readiness, and I think given the hour, we know we're not ready. But what I meant by it was not to say, are we ready, but what would it take for us to get ready? I think we have to have a complaint form ready, so that, and our website needs to have the bare components, which we're pretty close to. So I think once the complaint form is done, which should be finalized at our next meeting, I think then we would be clear to sort of say, what do we want to be when we grow up? Yeah.
And you're in the upcoming newsletter. So the township newsletter that's getting mailed to everybody, so.
That comes out in August.
Yeah,
Did she send it to you like preliminarily?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. And you can share that with everybody if you want.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I mean, I didn't go through it in detail. I always look to make sure that, the picture of me is fine.
I didn't even realize. Okay, so you just have it specifically. Okay.
I
Thought I
sent
was-
it to you.
Yes. I did. So you got it like undercover.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, yeah, I will send it out to everybody.
All right. Any other new business? Ah, yes, thank you.
I mean, I kind of think we have to cancel if you can't come and I
Mm.
can, unless.
Unless we want to reschedule.
Oh, no, wait, that's.
Oh, I don't
Paul.
think-
Shine.
I think we reschedule. You know how it is.
It's summer vacation.
Yeah.
So then we're just,
Mm.
hey, what will be the date of the August? I saw this. College in August.
It's already in the book.
Okay, it's the 27th, so I'm fine then.
August 27th is the August 8th.
And then, I might be.
Okay, so
Paul does not miss.
Paul will be at Melody, you said. Okay, sure.
We could move it down the shore. Is there any reason?
Toasted. Zoom from there.
So moved.
What were you gonna say, Kelly?
I mean, I guess some of this stuff wouldn't need to be discussed in the meeting, i.e. some of the stuff that we wanted to put on the website anyway, could just be sent to me. So at least we're making a little bit of strides if we're not meeting anyway.
What I'll do is I'll update the forms as best I can, circulate them, and I'll take, like, you can give me feedback so I can fix anything that's like obvious, that doesn't really require a whole group discussion before the August meeting. So when we come to the August meeting, people will have had a chance to really,
We're gonna close the deal.
Perfect.
I mean, I think it's pretty close, honestly. Like,
So do I.
what Stan gave us is really good.
What about also drafting a letter to go out with it?
That should be very, I probably won't be able to. The letter doesn't have to be done because until we have a complaint, we don't need a letter.
Oh, yeah, fair.
I mean, I could come up with something, but I think it's probably gonna need Stan's verbiage.
Okay, I will, that's a cover letter. That is
You can,
15 minutes.
you can do a cover letter?
I can, and I would also suggest that if you read that ordinance, it actually tells us what has to be in a complaint. We should have a form because we should accommodate the public by having one, but you don't even have to have a form because the ordinance tells a complainant what information they need to provide us.
We're not gonna expect them.
Yeah. But,
We barely know what's in it. We've already.
well, but if you wanted to file a complaint and I gave it to you, you would know what information I need. Your name, your address.
To do their own research.
But yeah, I will draft the cover letter.
Terrific. Well, we have no public to get comments from. It's 8:00.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Have a great summer, everybody.
Thank you, too.
Yes.
I'll let Katie know in the morning.